And so I want to say like that we have made it a priority to create opportunities in our day to have sex in the morning, in the afternoon, a quickie during lunch, all those kind of things. And we work from home most of the time, so that's fantastic. It's easy for us. But whatever your schedule looks like, even if you have like Saturday mornings, right? The kids sleep in, that is go time right there. Your kids are going to let them sleep in till 10:30, okay? You got your Saturday morning to be able to hit that out of the park at least one day a week. Now let's find a few other times where you can work it into your schedule. Maybe you work close to home and you can sneak away for lunch break.
Welcome back to another episode of The Donkey and the Bee with your hosts, Brett and Laura Shotkavis, where we talk all things marriage, entrepreneurship, and finances, and everything in between. And I am really excited about today.
It's going to be a good one, huh?
You know why? Because we love talking about things that people don't love to talk about. And one of those things is finances. People hate talking about their money. And I think we talk about that a lot because I think it's important to discuss it. The second thing people hate talking about is sex. And we are talking about that today. And I think we're excited about it because no one talks about it. And a lot of times couples don't even talk about it in their own relationship. And so we're going to talk about prioritizing sex and what that means and how to have a conversation with your spouse or significant other. So
I would agree that money and sex, maybe kids being third, are like the biggest reasons why couples split. They get divorced. They're not on the same page with these things. And they're so awkward, like even amongst a married couple, to talk about sex. So I'm happy to talk about sex with you. And we happen to have lots of people listening, which doesn't bother me, right? We've had multiple conversations about sex and about prioritizing sex. And we're not perfect. I'm going to be sharing some of the frustrations that I've had with our sexual relationships to be able to say, hey, here's some of the things that we've done to improve what we do and really be a case study here and an example of how to communicate with your spouse to really increase your sexual priority and, getting together on the same page sexually.
So when we were talking about this topic, the first thing that came to my head was the song, Let's Talk About Sex, Baby, the Salt and Pepper song. So, and that's probably telling our age, which I think we're still young, but probably maybe some listeners out there don't even know what I'm talking about. It's a song that was in the 80s or something, 80s or 90s,
definitely 90s.
Something. So anyways, I just want to throw in there a little tidbit and to get you laugh a little bit because I'm sure if you know what I'm talking about, then you know.
Yeah. All right, well, let's jump in. So here's the problem that I see commonly, and then it's the same problem we've had in our marriage, is you leave sex as a low priority. And what it really comes down to is a lot of times you see couples and it's like the end of the day, right? Like you've made dinner, you cleaned up, you did the kids' homework, you put them to bed, all that crap. It's like, hey, I'm already not getting enough sleep, right? Like I got to get up for my day tomorrow and I got a full day and I had a full day today. And it's like, man, I really wish we would already had sex, right? Like now it's just we took our shower and we brushed our teeth and we have our like mouth gear in or whatever crap.
Well, we don't wear mouth gear.
Your retainer, right? Like you're in your sweats and like you're not looking good anymore. And it's like, oh, should we do it? I don't know. No, we're tired. Let's just go to bed. Or, and I'll at least speak from the man's perspective. And at least in my experience and opinion, men want more sex than women want. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of times a frustration on the male's side to be like, I saw my wife look hot all day long, right? Hair looking great, makeup on, in her cute outfit. She went to work. She had her networking event. And honestly, like I see you like that all the time. I'm like, dang, man, can't wait to get Laura home, right? Like, let's do this. And then, we have a full day, do the stuff with the kids, and then dinner and everything wraps up. And it's like, you've already wound down for the day. You took off your makeup, you took a shower, you got your hair up in a little bun, you have your like comfy sweatshirt on, and it's like, well, man, not to say you don't look good, but you looked great for other people. You dressed for them. And then it's time for us. And it's like, well, crap, relatively, you don't look nearly as good, right? Like, and there is a priority there that I want to discuss today, because really we left sex to the end of the day. We left it to a place where when we get busy, it can get cut. And I think that's what I want to discuss, and how we've handled this and the conversations that we've had to make sex a priority. And it's not the last thing on the day that it's like, oh, I'm just too tired now, babe. Like, let's do it tomorrow, right? Like, no, at least for me, right? I'm a very sexually active, right? Like, I don't know how else to put that, right? I want to do it, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to leave this to something that does not meet my needs. If it can be the last domino that can potentially get removed from the table here, I don't like that, right? Like, I think a lot of men will relate that if we can prioritize sex at a different point of the day, make it different, schedule it different, or a different priority on it, then we start as a married couple bringing into our routine, into our normal in a different way.
So I think that this got brought about within our marriage because we talked about it. I think it was something that Brett was frustrated about, and I was kind of completely unaware about it until it came to a head. And then, sorry.
Okay.
And then he got so frustrated that he's like, hey, we need to talk about this. And so then I was aware of it. And so I think that the important aspect of this was that he was open about it with me and we talked about it. It wasn't just this like internal frustration within himself and then kind of casting blame on me, which I feel like can kind of come about within relationships. It's like this unspoken negative outlook that you have on your spouse because you think they should be reading your mind about sex and about like how much you want it or when you want it or how they should look or whatever it may be, right? But you're not talking about it because you're quote unquote uncomfortable, but then you're expecting them to do certain things, but they're not even aware of it. And so I think it's important to talk about it, even if you don't know how to put it into words, because sometimes, yes, it can be uncomfortable to talk about it. But I think once you talk about it more and more often, it becomes more regular, and then you're able to talk about it like we talk about it right now. Like, this is how we talk about it. We're just like, hey, I need more sex, or I want you to look this way, or I want this. Like, and so it's not awkward as much anymore.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about it so much.
Well, it was a little bit awkward, and I approached this conversation very gently and strategically because I was nervous about how to say this in a way like, hey, babe, you're looking great for everyone else, and then by default, oh, I'm not looking good anymore is kind of the implied. So I was very tactical and careful and thought of my words. And now I think I want to give you all advice, at least gentlemen, right? Like, because it was less about the way she looked. It was more about the priority or the lack of priority that she was bringing to the sexual relationship. And she was prioritizing her networking and work and all that stuff, looking great, and then winding all down and relatively looking like she's ready for bed. Mm-hmm. And I was seeing her all day long, right? Like, we both work from home most of the time, and like, dang, like, she's looking great. Let's do this. And then, don't ever get to do it in that circumstance.
I do want to note that if that conversation would have been talked about when we first got married, when we were first newlyweds, when we were early 20s, like I was 21, I think that I wasn't mature enough yet to see it from your perspective, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I think now that I'm in my late 30s, I have more confidence in myself. I know who I am. And I think that made a difference with how I perceived it. So I don't know if that's going to help anybody out there, but I think that it also depends on your maturity level, on how a woman is going to maybe be open to what you're trying to say. Because I think if you're coming at your wife or you're talking to her about sex life, she's going to take it very personal. And I think that there's a lot of insecurity in sex. A lot of people get insecure about like, oh, I'm not doing it right, or maybe I need to be better, and so I think there's a lot of insecurity in that. And so it's a very touchy subject because of that. So I think it's important to know beforehand, how mature is your wife when it comes to this, to be completely frank with you. Is she very insecure in herself and going to take it way too personal and then get upset? Or is she pretty secure in herself and can have a conversation about this maturely?
Yeah. That's kind of case by case.
Yeah, I know, right?
And perhaps as a man, you err on the side of this
caution.
not blowing up, right? Otherwise, you'll get no sex for 6 months. Not the goal here.
Yeah.
So, perhaps. So let me put it in this context as an analogy, and we both tithe. We are financially together. We tithe, and we at least understand this principle of you give 1/10 to God or to the church, right? And at least when you go back to Old Testament, it's not the last 10%, right? You don't get to spend
fruits.
90 and then it's literally the first fruits, right? It's the best of your your harvest, right? That same kind of thing. It's the best of your day. It's the best of your energy, of your priority. And I think this is where my heart came from. And I was able to explain this in this context of, hey, you know what? I really want the first fruits for our sexual life and not literally the last fruits, like the runt of the litter. Like this is just what I can scrape together. That's like, it's showing me that I am last, in this area of our marriage of the priority of your day. Mm-hmm. So to kind of put it together, if you are nervous about approaching this, don't say anything about your wife not looking good at the end of the day. You could talk about first fruits and last fruits here, because that was a pretty safe way for me to explain it. And then I kind of unpacked it a little bit more.
So you mentioned, the wife looking good, right? And I think that there's kind of a pressure, I think, that's put on the females to wear the lingerie, to look a certain way and to get in the mood, right? I feel like it's never the flip-flop. It's never the reverse. It's never the gentleman. What about the gentleman? What about them? Like, why is always the pressure always on the ladies to look good? Why can't the gentleman look good too? Why can't he stay in his business suit that he was in when he went to work and had a business meeting and he looked really hot and his hair was all done and everything? Why can't he stay in that business suit? Like, why does it always have to be the women have to change into something sexy? So I think that it's a two-way, right? It's not just on the woman, it's on the man too. The man needs to make sure he takes care of himself. He goes to the gym, he's eating right, and he's staying fit, right? It's not that you get married, and this is one of my biggest pet peeves, is when you get married and then you just go downhill physically because, I'm already married, you're not going to leave me type of thing. Like, no, I think it should be the opposite. Is you're married and you want to be your best self. You want to put your best self forward, not just for yourself, but for your spouse too, and for your kids and for everybody else. And so making your physical health a priority is vital, I think, within marriage. You want to, at least for me personally, I want to look sexy for you. I want to look good for you. And it's not that I'm looking good for other people. I'm looking good for you because I think that you look good for me. And so we're helping each other out in this. And so
For sure.
I think that it also needs to be said that the gentleman needs to step up to his game and also look good for the wife, not just the wife always looking good for the male.
Of course. And I think it's the dad bod here. Dad bods are not okay.
No, they're not okay. No.
Right? I know and I understand as a man the pressure of work and all those things. You get home and you want to crack a beer and you want to chill. That's not sexy, right? You sitting on the couch and not contributing as a father is not sexy. And you know what? Step it up. Even if you get home and you're not looking good, then clean yourself up, right? You need to take a shower, do that kind of stuff. Sometimes people work in the office, sometimes out in the field. Okay, take care of yourself. But you know what? You want to impress your wife and get her excited? Be a father. Be a good husband. I know you just worked your butt off. So did she, right? Get out there, help with the kids, make the lunches, do what you need to do the dishes, right? You want to prime your wife for some sexual time? Man, contribute to the home life there, right? While looking good, okay? I know men, right? We tend to get a little round around the midsection, then we start losing our hair. You know what? Do what you got to do. You have something to work with here. Improve your game so that your wife is attracted to you, because this is part of it, right? It is prioritizing. And if you are just getting home from work and kind of slopping it up, sitting on the couch, putting on sports and having 2 or 3 or 6 beers, there's nothing prioritizing about this relationship sexually or about contributing to really pull your fair share on the household side.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything as sexy as when you started making lunches for the girls in the morning, because I hate making lunches. It was I don't know what it was. It was just a big stress on me. And then where you took it over for every other day or something like that, and it was something that was just such a big turn on for me. And I know that it was a really small task, maybe for you, maybe you thought it wasn't a big deal. But for me, it was a really big deal, and that was sexy. I really liked that. And so I think it's maybe just knowing what your wife or your spouse love language is. So they have love language that they'd like to give to people, but then they also have love languages that they like to receive from people. And so I think it's important to know what they like to receive so that you can be sure to do those tasks or do those things.
Yeah. So we're talking about this sexual priority, right? But that is not like, let's get everything ready, look your best, so that still at 10:30 at night, you can do it, right? Like that's still not the priority. That's the hardest part of the day, juggling kids and work and tiredness and all that kind of stuff. Really where I want to go next is we should be doing it during the day, right? In the morning, in lunch break, whatever it is, like kids are outside playing at 3:30 after school. Like this is the priority time of our day. And it's really not that after 10 or 11 o'clock at night is I want us personally to move away from that. And we have, but also I want to encourage other people, hey, let's talk about sex as a priority physically in your day and what that looks like.
We researched this, and I thought it was kind of interesting to find out these tidbits of information. According to the Men's Journal, a recent study of 18 to 51-year-olds found that most people have sex between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. That's the worst possible time, even if you have not had a few cocktails. Late at night, levels of sleeping inducing melatonin rise, and testosterone is at its lowest. But while you sleep, testosterone levels start to climb, possibly to repair and build muscle for the coming day. When you wake up, testosterone levels are at their peak, which most men probably say, yes, they are. Physiologically, this is when sex is your best bet.
So I can speak for myself. And at least when I was in high school, I had all the other dudes around sleeping, overnight kind of stuff. We what the way men are built. And men are ready to rumble in the morning. Mm-hmm. And okay, so I think it's awesome. You talk about the science there, right? You're literally sleeping that 8, 6, 10 hours, whatever it is, building your testosterone back up, and you're ready to go, sexually speaking, right? And perhaps women have a different kind of clock and system and things there. But it is definitely clearest that at the end of the day, after a full day of work and kids and school and all that kind of stuff, that both sides are at their lowest levels, physically speaking. And so I want to say like that we have made it a priority to create opportunities in our day to have sex in the morning, in the afternoon, a quickie during lunch, all those kind of things. And we work from home most of the time, so that's fantastic. It's easy for us. But whatever your schedule looks like, even if you have like Saturday mornings, right? The kids sleep in, that is go time right there. Your kids are going to let them sleep in till 10:30, okay? You got your Saturday morning to be able to hit that out of the park at least one day a week. Now let's find a few other times where you can work it into your schedule. Maybe you work close to home and you can sneak away for lunch break.
So if sex is one of the top 3 reasons why people get divorced, I think it's interesting that most couples don't want to take the extra time or the extra effort to create a great sex life so that they don't end up being that, 50% divorce rate. When people say, I don't have enough time to have sex, or I don't have enough time to work out, or I don't have enough time to do these things, I just call it out. That's bullshit. Like it is. You have time. You can get up at 4:30 to go to the gym, come back, and still have enough time to have sex with your spouse before even the kids get up to go to school. There's plenty of time throughout the day. We all have the same 24 hours. So I just want to let you all know that there's only 24 hours and we all have the same amount of time, and we all figure it out. At least a percentage of us does. So make it a priority. Make it, and to be honest, sometimes you have to schedule it. And I know that may not be quote unquote sexy. Oh, I just want to be in the moment and have it happen. If you wait for that, it's not going to happen. And so for us, we want to prioritize a lot of things in our life. And in order to do that, for us, we have to schedule certain things. And so sometimes we do schedule sex. It's not like we put it on our calendar, but it's like we know each other's calendar and we know when we have the free moments within our day so that we can make sure that we spend that time together. So telling your spouse or telling yourself that you don't have enough time to have sex is literally just telling them that you don't have time for marriage. You don't have time to build that relationship with your spouse. And to be honest, I feel like that's a slap in the face. That's just like telling them you don't want to try. I don't really think that our marriage is a priority. And so if you have your marriage as a priority, this is something that you definitely need to prioritize in your life.
So we both have rhythms of our days, right? And, people work from home and they work from the office. They work apart, different cities and travel and things like that also, right? But you have a pattern in your life, same with your spouse, and just find where those rhythms are, identify them. And if you have time at 5:30 a.m., then make that a priority. If it's Tuesdays and Fridays where your schedules link up, where you both are able to cut together for an hour or something like, then do that. But find that 3-4 times a week, right? I mean, I hope you should at least be having sex that much a week.
I was just going to mention how often, sorry, I didn't totally mean to interject.
Yeah.
But I do think that people don't even make it a priority to have sex once a week. Like, I literally think that people think that's okay.
That's lame.
And you really think you're only gonna have sex 4 times a month? Like, that's not enough. Like, it's not. And I don't want to say that. I don't want to say a number like, oh, this is a magic number. Like, there's no real magic number. But I really do think once a month, like, it's
failing.
It's not creating intimacy within your relationship.
Well, this is another conversation that we've both had. It's physically speaking, here are my needs. Physically speaking, here are your needs. Mm-hmm. My needs, sexually speaking, are more frequent than yours.
Yeah.
Right? So if I have this window of somewhere between every 1 day and every 3 days, mm-hmm. and yours is, I don't know, every 3 days, every 7 days, I'm just making up, I don't remember. But
how dare you not remember? I'm just kidding.
But then, like, if mine's the limiting factor, we need to prioritize that, right? Exactly, like, what is between the two of you? There's all sorts of different conversations, right? If this one's about sex, what is the limiting factor here? And really, it's the spouse that maybe needs less sex to, I don't know, just step it up, man up. I don't know what term to use there to be gentle to women, but nonetheless, like, it's give and take, because there's other areas of your marriage that your spouse will need to step it up on that area.
Yeah.
And it's not disrespect. It's just different need levels. If mm-hmm. you have different needs on this area over here, you would expect your spouse to step it up over there. Mm-hmm. This is just another one, but it's kind of a hot topic, and you get like, oh, you're talking about sex like that. Just be mature. Yeah. Your spouse needs this, physically speaking, right? When my bladder is full, I empty it. I don't ask for permission, right? Like, if my testes are full or mm-hmm. your situation is full, like, we need to handle those things. And it's not like it's a surprise. There is a biological pattern, and it's like this. This is just a conversation, or sometimes 6 conversations to kind of work these things out.
Mm-hmm. I know we're talking about a lot of things here, but I think it's important to mention also that is the male stepping it up to make it more enjoyable for the woman.
That's important too.
So I think that that's something that I think males have this idea that it's in it for me type of thing. Like, we're going to do this and then I'm going to go and then we're done. But I want to tell males that a lot of time females do not orgasm with penetration sex. There are small cases that does happen, and we've experienced that. But I think majority of the time it's clitoral stimulation, and sometimes the guys don't want to make the extra effort to make it fun for the women. Therefore, the women feel like it's a chore then, because I have to have sex again with my husband. Like, oh great, it's just going to be him going again. And so I think if the women step it up by knowing what your husband needs, physiologically speaking, towards sex, then I think the men need to step it up too, to make it more of an enjoyable experience for the woman, because then she will want the sex more, and then he will be happy because she's giving it to him more, and it's almost like a mutually beneficial, I don't want to say relationship, but situation, right?
Yeah. But I would say that from the man's perspective, I think men are simple creatures. Just tell me what you want me to do. And a lot of times the women are not communicating these things.
Mm-hmm. I see that.
The female body, especially down there, is a straight mystery. Like, what is going on? I don't know. I need you to tell me exactly what you want me to do. Do you want circles? Do you want back and forth? Right? Is it one finger? Is it 2? Is it my tongue? Is it? You need to be clear and tell me what I need to do, and I will do that.
Yeah. 100%. I agree with you. And so I think, again, it comes down to talking about it. And I think it's just having those first maybe 5 conversations about it that are going to be really uncomfortable. And I think you just got to get past that. And we understand, because we went through the same thing about just being uncomfortable about it. And to be honest, I Brett was the only person I've ever had sex with. And so I did not have the quote unquote experience that most people have. And so it was a whole new environment that I was in, terraining through. And so it was something that we didn't talk about those first couple of years. And I think that it did come to a point where I didn't know what he wanted. I didn't know how much he wanted it. And so it came to a point where we had to have the conversation about it. And so it was just like, get uncomfortable. It is what it is. And so,
Yeah.
But when you get uncomfortable, majority of times, then it's not uncomfortable after you have those conversations.
Hey, you know what? Divorce is way more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
you know what? If you need to have a glass of wine or two and then sit down and start talking about these sexual things, if you need to write them out, so
Yeah,
if you're just
definitely.
too uncomfortable to look your spouse in the face and tell him or
Yeah.
her, I want it like this,
Yeah.
then crap, man, just write it down.
Yeah.
Slip a little note. Hey,
Yeah.
do this for me next time.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Just get one of those books with the positions and circle it. Do this for me. Whatever you need
Yeah.
to do, but you need to express your needs to your partner or else they are not going to know.
Mm-hmm.
So, to finish here, I wanted to wrap this thing up.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll keep it cool. Okay.
As an action step or as a way of understanding this, I would say that to have this conversation or the start of the series of these conversations with your spouse, and it's really prioritizing sex and saying this is important for our long-term success. If we want to avoid divorce, we need to understand the perspective of both sides, your side and my side. What are our needs? What are our wants? How do we like it? When do we like it? How much do we like it? And then really take those pieces of information and find your natural overflows of your rhythms in your day. And let's try and push these things as early into the day as we can. It will be better for you sexually speaking. It will be better that it won't get cut from your relationship. Life is already full with kids and work and all these other things. If you can push it earlier in the day, it's more likely to get done. But you need to know what that rhythm looks like, how many times a week. What's the limiting factor between the two of you? What are your needs sexually speaking? And then really prioritize like keeping yourself in shape and looking good for your partner, right? Don't just go look good for your girlfriends or, the guys at work. If you're a man, lay off on the beers after work, right? No dad bods are allowed, right? Hit the gym, take care of the household stuff around there. That will honestly make a huge difference with your wife appreciating you in the house and then appreciating you in the bedroom.
Well, thanks for joining us on another episode of The Donkey and the Bee. And as you all know, we do not run ads on the show. We think it's annoying. So the only ask that we have for you is to share it. So if you're one of those individuals who don't really know how to talk to your spouse about sex or don't even know how to start the conversation, one thing is you could just share the show with them. That would be kind of the launching point for you to have a conversation about your sex life. So share the show with your spouse, share it with your friends, share it with whoever you think may benefit from this conversation. Like and subscribe as well so you get notified to any new content that we release. And we will see you on the next one.